Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brewing with Jim.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. It's good to be with you.
Absolutely. My name is Joseph Jasper. I'm sitting here
And my name isn't. My name is Jim Brewington.
Yeah. This is a show where we get audience questions and we just seek to provide answers or at least our best advice.
We do.
For what they are thinking about.
Yes.
So I'm the question asker. You are more often than not sort of the source of our wisdom.
Yeah, but you're the
insight.
Contributor too.
For sure.
The co-host means
it's a team effort
together. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So today we've got an episode. Yes, we've got a question for the episode. It comes from an audience member as always, and it's pretty straightforward. How do you deal with a difficult boss?
Oh, wow. This is just another instance of I wish I knew more about the motivation for asking the question, the reason for asking the question, and I knew something from the questioner.
Yeah.
Difficult. Well, there are several ways to deal with it. You can quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just go on, but that's not
way.
really dealing with it.
Sure.
My experience with different bosses that I have had, people who oversee my work or who have hire and fire power, authority with me, has been pretty positive, actually.
Yeah. Same for me. I haven't never had a boss that I would consider difficult.
I have had a couple. And maybe we could talk about the military in a little while, but I guess that isn't really I don't know that the question, you can have commanding officers over you or supervisors of whatever rank over you, and that can be dealt with in a different way. My perspective is that bosses are just human beings, and they have a job, and they want to keep their job, and they need their income from the job, and they have emotions and desires just like any human being.
That's right.
And dealing with another individual who is, I don't like dealing with, relating to or interacting
working with,
profitably or for a positive result, has to do with recognizing the humanity of the other person.
Yeah.
One of the techniques, if you will. It's a technique. It's almost a manipulative technique that I have used when I have a problem of any kind in my work situation. And I disagree with what my boss has decided or the way he approaches me, he or she approaches me, is to ask for advice. I need your advice.
That's right. Yeah.
And I want to do that on the home territory of the authority of the boss. Let me meet in your office. Could we sit down and I just need help. I need advice in knowing what to do in a certain situation. And then you just name the situation. I'm distracted by having to do so many things or being watched with so many details in my life, which is micromanagement. And by the way, all micromanagement is fostered based on mistrust.
Sure.
I don't trust you, so I have to watch every detail, and I think my way of doing things is the only way of doing things, and therefore I want you to do it my way. That, of course, stifles any creativity I have, any productivity improvement that I might have.
That's right.
So I will say I'll just have a meeting and say, I need your advice, and this is the situation I find myself in, and what can you tell me to do that might be helpful?
Right.
Now, you have, in that approach, you have set the boss at ease.
Yes.
And it is not confrontational.
That's exactly
You have something I want from you or that I need that you can provide. That's all flattering already. Yeah. And now the tension is pretty much out of the air, and I can feed off whatever he says to me, she says to me. And when I do that, it's always been profitable for me. By profitable, I mean productive, with a good result. So I think that's one way of handling it. Mm-hmm. Another way, it depends on what the problem is. If there's too much oversight and he's hovering over me, I'm going to say he, meaning he or she. I don't want to do this all the time. if he's hovering over me and watching every detail, then my issue is going to be, I need your advice on, do you want me to be creative or productive in my job, or just comply with all of the methods that you have suggested, or how do you, and you use the language that's as soft as possible, and not confrontational.
I like that a lot.
So there's one method that I would recommend.
Sure. What I like about that technique is, like you said, it disarms the situation.
Exactly.
It takes away, if you storm into your boss's office with, this, that, and if you take the aggressive tone, I think you're going to get met with an aggressive tone.
That's probably true with anybody in life.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
But ultimately, your boss will have the authority because they're the boss.
Yes.
So it's not a good strategy to do that, right? Just thinking about it purely strategically. I like disarming the situation. I like giving them the opportunity to be framed as, look, it's an acknowledgement that you are the boss, right? It's
exactly.
You are taking a humble approach, and they will appreciate that because it gives them the opportunity to still lead and share what they think in an not authoritarian, but in an authoritative. Is that a word? Manner?
It is now.
It is now.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, when I think of this question, I can imagine a boss being ineffective or bad. I can see that happening in one of two directions. Either they are not involved enough, or they're not providing leadership, or they are the micromanaging or maybe too aggressive. There's two ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
The original question being difficult, using the term difficult boss, I interpret that as the too much, the micromanager, the aggressor, or maybe the boss that just doesn't listen to me.
Well, I think that's valid. There is another method of thinking about this, another way of thinking about this. Maybe I am at fault. Maybe I am not doing a good job. Maybe I am irresponsible. Maybe I'm late to work all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me. And I think that's a time to be introspective and say, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? Is he correct in telling me?
Are they onto something?
What I'm wrong, and being critical of me could be to my benefit.
Yeah.
So that needs to be worked out as well and thought. And it could be that you could do that with him. I need your advice. I know that you seem dissatisfied with some of the things I do. What can I change to be better? To benefit the compliance with you, and also to benefit the company, so there's number two.
That's really apt, and I can say in my experience that has been a positive force in my working history. Is moments where I have not been the best employee, and people come alongside me and very, very intentionally guide me and try to point out what can be better, and heeding to that advice and seeing the results of that has been super beneficial. I think that what that gets at is that your boss, ideally a good boss, is going to be in your favor, and they're going to want what's best for you.
It's a mutually beneficial relationship.
It is mutually beneficial. And so if your boss is capable of promoting your growth or promoting your education, your, I don't want to say behavior, that's kind of a weird term for it, but you get what I mean. A good boss is going to be, in some ways, almost shepherding and encouraging you towards something better. In my opinion, the question asked a difficult boss. I could imagine the question asker, I could imagine them talking about a boss that gives the impression that they are not doing that. They're not encouraging. They're not pushing forward.
I would assume.
They're not improving.
But it's only a speculation. We have to assume when we don't know.
That's purely a speculation indeed. But if it is the case that the boss is truly not on your side, to use a better term than that, then that is That's a problem. That's a problem.
What
and,
if the boss
yeah.
is there's something off about him, and I've observed it, and by off I mean he seems to be making contradictory decisions, and he is there's something wrong mentally with what he's doing, or his judgment varies in being applicable to what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Then I hesitate to say this because of Matthew 18. If you have a problem with somebody, go directly to them.
Sure.
But then I might collaborate with another employee. Have you seen this, or do you have any experience with this? And if that's the case, now what do we do? Well, I would say go directly to the boss, to
that person.
person, and talk to them. But there might be a time when everything is resisted. Everything we say to him is resisted. And he continues to seem to decline in judgment and in motivation, or even in the ideal of profiting the company and so forth. When do you go to his boss? And that's delicate.
Yeah.
But it may be a time when that's necessary.
Sure.
I can now I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about my experience in the military. I was a commissioned officer, and I was third in command on a ship. And the captain of the ship is the first, of course, and then the second is the executive officer. And the captain of the ship seemed a little goofy to us. He seemed a little inconsistent. And you can't be even a little inconsistent and goofy if you're the commanding officer of a naval vessel.
That's right.
And there was a time, just fast forward here, the XO, the executive officer, came to me and he said, "Have you noticed?" And I said, "Yes, I have." And the executive officer even suggested that we may need to go to his superior officer and mention something here. Now, that is really tough. You can't do that at sea without mutiny.
Sure.
And mutiny is very serious in the military. So we ended up doing nothing but observing, and we became more alert to his orders and to his the way he ran the place and the way he related with people. But if a commanding officer or any officer chooses to use a firm and loud voice with someone who is working for them, that's just acceptable in the military.
It is.
And
That's right.
you can't complain about, well, it's a difficult boss. What is the difficulty? I'm coming back now to maybe an employment situation. What is the difficulty? Well, he's making me feel bad.
Sure.
He's making my emotions bad.
Sure.
And my thought about that would be, get over it.
Yeah.
I mean,
might be the environment.
It might be.
That might just be the environment of this workplace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is, I think we talked about this analogy once before, I'm not sure. The road in life is bumpy. It is bumpy.
Yeah.
And there are people who will, especially for a child, a mother perhaps, go out and try to make the road smooth for the child. And the father, generally speaking, is the person who's, no, I'm going to get the kid ready for a bumpy road. You prepare one or the other. When you are grown and you're an employee and you have a boss who is difficult, and the boss, well, I'm just not comfortable doing this, get over it.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be perhaps a rough time in doing this. If you're an attorney, if you're a doctor, if you do even an engineer, and you work primarily with looking for the negative of something. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? And I have a responsibility here to fix this, or to make this smooth, or to make this right, or at least make this appear right. Then that road is not going to be just arranging flowers all day long.
That's right.
You've got some responsibilities, and you've got some serious considerations in what you're doing.
That's absolutely right.
So get used to it and get a little thick-skinned here.
Yeah.
Keep a soft heart.
Absolutely.
and a thick skin. And there are people who get the reverse done.
That's right.
They have soft skin and a hard heart.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be uncomfortable because that is not what we are built to be.
That's right. Yeah. I think fundamentally too, and maybe this starts to wrap up this segment, but I think too that what to do with a difficult boss or what to do with your boss, however they may behave, is going to be more intuitive as you get further in your career,
Yes.
as you get older, as you as a person and as an employee gain more experience. When I hear this question, and I don't want to draw like stereotypes or anything, but I imagine this question coming from someone who's rather young, coming from a job that is rather entry level.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how else to.
An inexperienced employee.
Sure. A barista at Starbucks. I don't know. Like, I'm just throwing it out there, right?
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that this question would get asked by someone like in my shoes. I've been a teacher for 10 years. You know what I mean? It's just not a thing that I think about because if I do have difficulties with my boss, I have the experience to know how to handle those.
Exactly.
And
it comes with maturity.
It does. And so the reason I bring that up is just to encourage the listener, if you're hearing this and if at all feeling kind of dissatisfied with our answer, frankly, I get it, but just know, like, if assuming my assumption is correct, so now I'm assuming two layers deep. Anyway, it will come with time. Your ability to answer the question that you have asked will come with time, and as you get into more of what I would call a career, as opposed to what could at this time be a summer job, an entry-level gig for a while, that kind of thing, where ultimately you're not going to have to work for this boss, statistically speaking, for more than the next few months or maybe the next year or so anyway.
Well, that's right. And you can the advice here is just buckle up and stay with it.
Yeah.
Or quit.
Yeah.
And go on to something else. But when you go on to something else, I can't tell you what that boss is going to be like. And that's just the
grass,
way it is.
Yes, the grass is not always greener.
No. Sometimes it's mushrooms poisonous on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest that you just stay with it.
Yes.
And realize that this boss, again, repeating what I said at the beginning, this boss is a human being with feelings and insecurities, perhaps,
and faults
all
and
the rest of
emotions,
us have.
That's right.
And if you appease him in the sense of doing what he says, regardless of the firm or voice or the volume of the voice when he corrects you and criticizes you, just receive it and go on. And if you comply with his wishes, as long as they're not illegal or immoral,
yes, of course.
But if you comply with his proper direction in your life, you will create an affinity. In him. He will notice, this employee does the things that I want done.
Yeah.
And there is a natural attraction to that. And then there is a softness that usually follows that.
Yeah.
I would use that method as number 3.
Yeah. I have 2 very small last pieces of advice in closing. Number 1 is take the opportunity to learn more about kind of yourself as an employee. If you're experiencing difficulties with your boss, try to be introspective about that and take time to think, what does this say about me? Mm-hmm. What does this say about who I am? My other second, this is my actual last piece of advice, is don't burn bridges.
Right.
Don't, especially,
I agree.
Especially when they are for no reason. Now, if your boss is actively harming you in some way, I mean, sure, you can. You could argue, burned that bridge already. You can storm out, and it's gonna not make a difference.
But actively harming in what way? And if it's physical harm, or if it's I don't know. Be careful with emotional harm.
Yeah.
Because anybody can. I just don't feel comfortable, or I don't want to be this anxious.
Yeah.
And so, but if there is any kind of abuse coming your way.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be dealt with.
That
in
needs
a
to be
different
addressed very separately. But as far as you can control it, do not burn bridges. Don't be needlessly flippant, disrespectful, on your way out the door. Those jobs might be on future resumes. Right? You might need a letter of recommendation from that person. Your future, when you're applying for jobs, after this, that person might call up, might see that on your resume and go, let me hear about what this person was like at their old job. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So don't burn bridges. Take
the
high ground.
I would say that with any relationship in life, regard another human being
Absolutely.
as a creation of God in His image.
Yes.
And every human life is worthy of dignity and respect.
Absolutely.
Really, in that he is respected by God and he is loved by God. That doesn't mean I respect his decisions. I respect his personality. I respect his approach. I don't like any of those things.
I respect his humanity.
I respect his humanity.
Yeah.
And I am to regard the other person as more important than myself.
That's right.
And that's going to be a guideline from God's Word.
That's right.
On the way to deal with anybody.
That's right.
Okay.
Beautiful place to leave off.
Okay, let's stop it.
I love that. Let's go to our second segment, which is the surprise Jim segment, where Jim gets a silly question that he does not know ahead of time. So here it is for today, Jim.
Here we go. My seatbelt's fastened.
If you somehow were forced or asked to lose one of your 5 senses, which of your 5 senses would you be most comfortable or you think most easily able to live without?
Oh, my goodness. We actually talk about that in the American Sign Language classes.
I was waiting for
I asked
ASL,
I don't talk about 5 senses. I talk about 2. If you had to be either blind or deaf, what would you choose, and why would you choose that? Mm-hmm. And I remember what Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf, said. And what she said was, to be blind separates you from things. To be deaf separates you from people. And that is a tough thing to think about. Of the 5 senses, my nose is deaf.
I was going to say,
I don't have a good sense of my olfactory. I think I taste okay, but how do I know? I know that I don't smell things other people smell, which is really nice for gas station restrooms. But it's not. I don't know that I miss it, but I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah.
And touch will be another one, right? The kinetic feeling, the touching of things. I don't think about that very often.
To not have,
be totally numb all the time. That's not good.
Yeah.
I would. Well, if I were deaf, I'm ready to go.
That's right. You're equipped. Yeah.
Some people might say fluent in American Sign Language.
Absolutely.
But I would miss a lot.
Of course.
I would miss, and the common claim from the students is they would miss music.
Yeah.
But you don't, if you're congenitally deaf, that you're born deaf, or prelingually deaf, you just don't remember ever speaking about anything. That's going to be not so noticed as something that's lost. If I had another attribute about me, I would like to have a prehensile tail. Oh, that would be fabulous! You could get stuff off the top shelf. There are so many things I could do with a prehensile tail, and some primates are blessed.
That's right.
They have that. I don't have that.
Yeah.
How much do I miss it?
None. You've never missed
None,
it, yeah.
Because I have no idea what it's like to have that.
That's right.
So there are people who have never seen anything.
Yeah.
There are people who have never heard a sound. During COVID, we had loss of olfactory senses, taste and smell.
That's right.
And there are some people who have never regained that.
That's right.
From that disease, from that pandemic. For me, Of the 5, I would say smell. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah.
Take it away.
This is my answer as well.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Everything else seems, I don't know, more kind of mission critical, for lack of a better term. It's, not to say that smell is not great or important, but it doesn't feel as essential in terms of like navigating the world.
Well, smell is an important sense. I mean, that's how else do you know if the milk's spoiled?
There you go.
That's what you do. You don't taste it.
Right.
You just.
It's helpful to know if there's like a gas leak in your kitchen. Like stuff
all
like
those
that
things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there's my quick answer to that.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
This has been another episode of Brewing with Jim. We want to thank our audience as always for listening. If you have a question that you want to ask us, or if you just want to reach out to us, please email us at brewingwithjim@gmail.com.
Yes.
We check that email all the time for new questions coming in or just for messages from our listeners. So again, reach out to us. That is brewingwithjim@gmail.com.
Okay. Thanks,
With
Joseph.
that, thank you all for listening and have a great week.
Talk to you next week.
The topics that are covered and the answers that are offered during episodes of Brewing with Jim are designed to mine the wisdom attained from a life of pastoral ministry and care. They do not constitute professional or clinical training or expertise in the areas of counseling or mental health. CVCS and its podcast network want to provide a platform for the discipleship of our community. Brewing with Jim is our attempt to foster that environment in a format that is accessible for everyone to participate in. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during the show are the speaker's own, and they may or may not represent the views, thoughts, or opinions of Capistrano Valley Christian Schools or its faculty. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.